patience, everyone. Just be a few minutes, gotta do the countdown clock, and making sure everything's okay here. Always something. Be in a few. Won't be much longer, my friends. Sorry about the wait. Okay, sorry about the ridiculous streambot thing, but I think I fixed it. Hopefully it doesn't appear anymore. Okay, here we go. Okay, I think we're finally ready. I hope. Well, my apologies and thank you for your patience today. And thank you for your patience as always, because there's always something that pops up. So appreciate you all. Um, Before we get started, this channel is for educational purposes only or entertainment purposes only, depending on the eyes of the law. So whichever they prefer. And want to give a big thank you also to Miss McAvoy for upgrading your membership. Always good to see you, sister, and thank you so much. I appreciate you, and hope you're doing okay out there. Look forward to speaking with you soon. And Veracity Media, a member for 14 months, and left his message here. Says, "My path has forever altered. You in this community have positively contributed so much towards my personal growth. Thank you for everything, Mark." Well, thank you. Thank you, Veracity Media. I appreciate you too. And I'm glad we've all got to learn and grow together in this crazy realm we find ourselves in. So shout out to Candidly, John Doe, Jay Johnson, Amun, George, T, George, Pure Water, Spirited, and Mao, D, Andre, Iswoofer, KSP, Prepper, Goy Goddess, and anyone else who's out there today or I may have missed. I hope you're all doing well. Hello to Roiling Water over on Odyssey. And then on Rumble, Rastemi, if I'm pronouncing that right. So hello, everybody. Great to see you. And so now that we are ready to rock, this is kind of a tough one. Not nearly as tough as the last one, but it's still rough. I mean, you got it. I have a lot of compassion and empathy for the experiencer. It's just a really, really sad situation all around. And so basically what happens is we're going to be going over Anika's out-of-body experience and after-death communication with her daughter. She is married, had a husband, or has a husband, and they lost their daughter, who was not even 3 years old yet. It was very sudden and out of nowhere, and obviously very difficult. And so what happened is she had an out-of-body experience and some after-death communication. There was also some interesting things with the grandparents, and so like a premonition almost, or almost kind of like a final goodbye when the granddaughter had passed. But the after-death communication, what happened was the mother experiences it with the out-of-body experience, gets to see the daughter. It's a beautiful moment for her. And then an entity's there and kind of steps in and says, "Okay, it's time to say goodbye." And she's like, no, I want to stay longer. I want to be able to see her more, of course, obviously, right? And she ends up having to go and ends up back in her body and is determined to be able to get answers and be with her daughter. So, I mean, really takes a big initiative, ends up running across William Bielman and learning astral projection and meditating, and ends up traversing the astral and being able to spend more time with her daughter as a result of it. So we're going to hear all this today. It's a really, really great case because it embodies a lot of different things, right? It's the death of a loved one, out-of-body experiences, after-death communication, and then obviously the practices, the spiritual practices after, to continue exploring and being with her daughter. So with that being said, I want to make sure that anyone who may be watching this today who's not familiar with kind of what we talk about on the channel, I have, again, great empathy and compassion for every experiencer that is discussed here. I just disagree with what's going on and how it's being presented in terms of, um, I basically feel that we're all being had, right? That these are, even though these are really meaningful connections and experiences that these individuals have, they are part of a overarching system that is linked to the Earth experience, right? And if you look at the difference between what's being presented in the astral realms and what's being presented in um, on Earth, it's clearly a much different tune. I mean, we're talking about a loving, all knowing existence, no pain, no suffering, all these types of things in the astral. But then you're here and it's completely different story. And so, in short, anyone who's kind of new or randomly run across this, what this channel does is break down experiencer cases, among many other things, and shows how it is a deception and that we are all part of this matrix reincarnation soul trap system. But with that being said, too, there is a very positive message and the most empowering message I think anyone can conclude is that we are sovereign essence beings, eternal sovereign essence beings, and we have the ability to leave this place at the conclusion of this incarnation. But yeah, unless you're kind of aware of the methods that are being used, the addiction to the sensory experience, the life script, the soul group, which in this case we're obviously talking about a mother and a daughter. That's one of those examples. Friends, loved ones, wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, children, grandchildren, pets, even just loving music or loving, it could be something silly too. It could be for the love of material, other things like property and all sorts of different material toys. Okay. So all these types of things kind of funnel in, and the beauty of the experiencer cases is that we get a big look as to how all of this connects. And when you take that in combination and apply just really common sense, that the two are diametrically opposed at what they're, one is saying this and one is saying that. And then you're just looking and saying, okay, I'm experiencing this Earth life. What the heck is going on? Like all, if everything is love and light and rainbows and unicorns and all this stuff on the other side, but we're also being told that we've got to come down here to learn and grow spiritually and evolve and blah, blah, blah. But we get memory wiped lifetime after lifetime. Something is seriously wrong there. And so I'm just trying to say, hey, take the route of sovereignty, non-interference, which is shielding, and liberation, creating your own realm after this, not interacting with anything. So you can take back your full essence. We have to always think bigger, right? We can't just think in terms of the Earth realm. We can't just think in terms of the astral realm. What were we doing before we came into this whole system? That's a big question I think everybody should ask themselves who's kind of new to this content or on the fence. If we don't have a memory for everything that we've experienced, and we are eternal beings, that we know. So what did we experience before we came into all this, right? And again, it's not just Earth; it's the astral realms and all the realms linked to what I refer to as the Matrix reincarnation soul trap. So you have all of these little things moving, bits and pieces, but they all link in together to the whole system. And I think there is a tremendous amount of evidence to prove this And I always say, do your own research. Don't just trust me. Go out and find this information for yourself. Look for the deception. Start, consuming experiencer cases on your own, all different types, not just NDEs or OBEs or after death. I mean, just really go all out. Check the channel trailer, and I think it's going to be updated sometime in the next month or so. I'm going to make a totally revamped version of it, but I go over in that video, what's the point of all this? And I think if you just search on the channel, you can find that too. Like, what's the point? Just type that in it. That's a channel trailer. Some of you may have seen it, and some of you may not have. So, anyways, that was kind of a long introduction. I just want to let any experiencer know, especially, Anika. I mean, she's gone through hell, and none of what's discussed here is meant to disrespect her or any other experiencer talked on the channel. So anyways, let's get into it. Thanks for hearing me out, and please, if you're new or otherwise on the fence, stick with it. This really is the most important information you can run into and research on your own. It's extremely self-empowering, and all I'm trying to do is just help a little bit. So, okay, here we go.
Normally.
Oh, hold on one sec here. Oh, thought I had it queued up, but that's the old one. Of course, always something. There we go.
I then learned that it is possible to visit deceased people in the afterlife in this out-of-body state. That was the point where I said, now I can't go back. Now I just have to go on because that's where I want to go. I don't just want to experience these afterlife contacts. That's fine and good and healing, but I want more. I want to see Luna doing well. It is my right as a mother. This is perhaps also selfish, to see where my child is and to ask her myself, are you well?
I don't think it's selfish at all. Just have to...
Mrs. Shaler, you lost your not yet 3-year-old daughter in March 2020 in inexplicable circumstances, as you described to me beforehand. After this tragic event, you repeatedly experienced after-death contacts and related phenomena. But before we get to that, please tell us how you experienced the death of your daughter Luna. What happened at that time?
Ja, also das passierte mitten während der Corona-Pandemie in Österreich. Das war sehr unvorhergesehen, sehr plötzlich und überraschend.
It happened unexpectedly, very suddenly and surprising during the Corona pandemic. My daughter Luna was 2 years and 9 months old. We had gone on an excursion, cooked together, and also gone to bed normally. 3 weeks earlier, my youngest son had been born. The space in the bed was very limited, so I went to sleep in the living room. It was a family situation. Shortly at 11 o'clock, my husband came running downstairs, screaming in panic. "She's not breathing! She's not breathing!" I only saw her hanging down, lifeless arms. And I was full of panic at that moment. I only heard her gasp, meaning breathe out air, but I didn't feel like she was breathing in air. I immediately called the rescue, which was with us within half an hour. I did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and chest compressions. All this happened automatically. I did what I remembered from the first aid course, and I trusted the rescue people. They really tried everything, and for me there was no question that someone from us would accompany Luna to the hospital. I had the thought, we'll get this fixed, until the paramedic turned around and said, "I think she's going to die." I'll never forget that moment. It's still with me to this day.
So, just heartbreaking. I mean, really, this is just one example of many, right, my friends, where severe emotional trauma is cast down on a good individual, a good spirited being who, I mean, this is the type of horrors that some individuals have to deal with. And there's all sorts of different horrors in this realm, all sorts of different things that can happen. And from either childhood to early adulthood to adult, I mean, all that stuff. Okay, there's all sorts of different things that can happen and affect you. And just imagine how low this gets someone. I've spoken with a number of mothers who have lost their children. There's even an interview on one of them from a while back, and it's just heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking, and no one should have to suffer like that. No one. And let's not even, we can go down the list of all other things, child trafficking, everything, just abusive families, and on and on and on. It's so, ask yourself this question: if everything's so perfect over there, then why is this allowed to occur? What kind of growth is someone receiving losing their barely even 3-year-old child? All right, what kind of lesson is that besides extreme suffering? And it's just, if everything's so perfect on the other side, then why come here? Why deal with all this? And again, if we're learning and growing, why are you being memory wiped? How can you learn and grow after coming here lifetime after lifetime with your memory erased, not knowing where you came from, why you were here, or where you were going? That's like the big, nail in the coffin, so to say. No pun intended. It just is. It's the biggest giveaway of this experience that we're having. It's like you cannot grow. You cannot learn. You cannot learn from past mistakes and fix those in next lifetimes if you don't have any recollection on what the heck to work with. It doesn't make any sense.
She died a short time later that night in the living room at our house. My second oldest son was home that night.
She was not then transported by the rescue services?
The helicopter had already been called and landed nearby, but she was not stable enough to be transported to the hospital. She died at our home, and that was a totally horrible situation. We had to wake up my second oldest son.
Now imagine losing your child in your home and then having to live in that house every day afterwards. That in and of itself is torture.
And he got to say goodbye to her. Barely half an hour passed, and then the police and people came to take Luna away in the thin coffin because she had to have an autopsy. None of us knew what had happened. She had no symptoms of illness. She had been fine. She had been squeaky clean.
The death of your own child is an extreme experience. How did your husband deal with it? How did things continue after that?
It didn't go any further. This is such an existential event. It threatens the whole life, the whole existence of a mother and a father. Only people who have experienced this themselves can understand it. Somehow everything stops. Nothing makes sense anymore. The whole world order is out of joint because it simply can't be that one's own child dies and one lives on. We were very isolated, also because of the corona measures, for which I was also very grateful. I wouldn't have known what to say. The next day I had to call my parents and tell them, "Your granddaughter died." They were shocked. Then we had to wait for the results of the autopsy. The farewell had to be prepared. Only a limited number of people were allowed to be there.
Okay, and, we're not going to go too off on that one, but when those things were happening, hearing about loved ones who passed and families not being denied proper funeral services, grieving services, celebration of life services, absolutely appalling. Appalling that was allowed to go on.
Clothes had to be chosen. We talked to many doctors on the phone to find out what happened, what was going on, why did she have to die. The support from the village community was very big. Especially the children brought many pictures, gifts, food. There was cooking for us. We were called. But with time, the support became less. For me, it was shameful, because after a certain time, this "I only functioning" stopped. Then at some point it was clear Luna is really gone and she's never coming back. And then really comes this deep sadness. Our partnership suffered a lot. I think that many couples separate in such a situation because everyone grieves differently. My children also mourned very differently. It was often barely visible and hardly noticeable. They were crying, but somehow they were grieving very differently than I was. I really cried. I locked myself up. I didn't want to go out on the street. I thought, I can't go on like this. How can we go on when our own child is no longer here?
Did you find out later what the autopsy findings were, what the cause of death was?
Yes, the official result was known a few days later. The doctor said it might have been pneumonia. I felt guilty. How could it be pneumonia? Was I missing something? She had no cough, no fever, nothing. The last time she had been sick was months ago. That was really terrible news. It wasn't until 6 months later. You have to imagine how awful that is, waiting months for the autopsy results and finding out what the child died of. That it turned out that she was actually healthy. The doctors can't really explain why she died. All that was found was heart muscle inflammation.
Then how did the after-death contacts come about? How did they begin? What did you experience?
Actually, already at the moment of her death, both grandparents independently woke up at the moment of her death and felt that something was wrong.
Okay, so we have the last visit, so to say, of the granddaughter visiting the grandparents. So that's not uncommon. It does happen regularly where there's an intuitive feeling, intuitive knowing that something's wrong, or you wake up in the middle of the night, or something happens right as the person who's passing kind of says their last goodbyes in their own way. And a lot of family members, or at least those who are close with whoever passes, experience something like this.
My father had severe chest pain. He didn't know at all what had happened and why he felt that way. He didn't tell me until afterwards. My mother-in-law also told me that she woke up and felt that someone was there. That was the beginning of the after-death contacts. It was a huge wave that went off. I like to think back on it because it was so incredible that you couldn't explain it rationally. My mother had a very intense dream a week later, which still occupies and accompanies her today, in which Luna said goodbye to her. I slept a lot after her death. Grief really makes you very tired. Shortly before falling asleep or shortly after waking up, I saw my daughter in front of my inner eye. That seemed strange to me. I said to myself, that's a grief reaction for sure. I am grieving for her, and that's why I see her everywhere now. She was waving at me and smiling at me, and that was really cruel, because I was thinking now she is gone, and I miss her so much, and now I have to see her all the time, even when I want to sleep. These impressions then somehow took on a life of their own. I saw.
So she's getting these visits in the dream world, and I would have to agree. I would think it was cruel at first too. But there's obviously a much deeper reasoning for why this happens, and we'll go over that as we move along. But she really is a strong woman who was determined to get answers and be reunited. And wait till you see how this all unfolds.
See her all the time, even when I want to sleep. These impressions then somehow took on a life of their own. I saw Luna more and more often, always before falling asleep, shortly after waking up. And they were also always surreal scenes that had a connection to where I was during the day or what had happened. I couldn't explain it to myself. At the same time, the whole technical hodgepodge in our house took on a life of its own. The TV went on and off. The intercom suddenly developed a life of its own. The kitchen stove in our car, everything electronic, suddenly stopped working. It was quite strange. My husband was the first one to say, "That must be Luna. She's contacting us now." I thought, well, that's very comforting now. Of course, people always say that she's always with you and that she has not left you. And that is nice and easy to say, but somehow these doubts were there and the sadness was very great. But these signs became stronger and stronger until I thought, maybe there is something to it. And if she is really somehow there, where is she? And how can I get in touch with her? That was my lifeline when I was so sad. Who knows? Maybe there is something after death after all. And if so, what is it? How can I find out?
Can you recount anything else about your mother's dream?
Yes, it was a very nice dream. She dreamed that my children were spending the night with her. Then she went to the front house. Suddenly she looked out the window and thought, what's going on out there? It's so strange out there. Everything was so colorful and beautiful. She saw beautiful birds flying around. And somehow they were also full of joy. She thought, wow, this is an incredible view. Then she looked to her left. There was Luna. And Luna appeared bright white. She was wrapped in a white dress with a white cap. My mother was crying. And Luna pointed at her and said, "Grandma, I just have to go first." Then they hugged. And my mother knew she is going to a beautiful place now, where there is no suffering and no pain.
Okay, so just listen to this part one more time. It's
wow,
interesting.
This is an incredible view.
So the daughter's kind of got the angel vibe going on, you know, the wearing all white, but interesting moment here.
Then she looked to her left. There was Luna. And Luna appeared bright white. She was wrapped in a white dress with a white cap. My mother was crying. And Luna pointed at her and said, "Grandma, I just have to go first." Then they hugged. And my mother knew she is going to a beautiful place now.
Okay, so Grandma, I have to go first. So this is kind of opening, let's just say, the gateway to the experience that the grandmother's about to have. And what does that do? It kind of gives the grandmother the attention on the granddaughter, and that, okay, this is the process that I'm supposed to go along with, that I'm supposed to follow in order to be with my granddaughter. And, well, what does that do? She is essentially going along with this, which understandably so. I'm not knocking it. It's perfectly, totally understand why. But just have to point that out for reasons as far as, these are the types of situations that we can end up in, or probably have been in many times, in whatever type of experience they may have been, not necessarily an after-death communication, but think of it in terms of past lives I think we've all had, probably many, okay? It's the carrot and the stick. It's like, oh, here I am, Grandma, let me get this all set up, and I have to go first, and then who has to follow afterwards? Grandma. All right, so it's the intention behind it, in my opinion, a consent to continue on with this experience and have a loving moment and reassurance that her granddaughter's okay.
Now, where there is no...
But you also have, obviously, the white light. She's glowing white, wearing all white. So, ask yourself, who exactly is Grandma dealing with? I don't know, but it's like the... we'll continue. Sorry.
And my mother knew she is going to a beautiful place now, where there is no suffering and no pain.
You had visual perceptions, so to speak. You saw them internally, right?
Yes, in the beginning I saw them inside. That was the beginning of everything. I studied psychology. I come from another subject and thought to myself, this is now simply a post-traumatic stress disorder, a depression, whatever will develop there now. And with one of us, something like this will surely develop. We then booked an appointment with a psychic. I thought I would ask this lady what she thought was going on with my perceptions, because these became more and more intense.
So, you also wanted to hear this side.
Right. I just wanted to get an overview. I always want to make up my own mind. I want to listen to everything, look at everything, and then decide what I think about.
And that's exactly how we should always approach anything in life, right? Look at both sides of the spectrum, look at the center, and make a judgment call based on information being reviewed, received, and interpreted, right? So she went the distance to continue having experiences and found out what was essential for those to actually occur. So really, really interesting how it's going to unfold. Wait till you see.
Amazingly, this woman knew exactly what it was all about. She told me so much about my daughter that she couldn't really know, and that was quite fascinating. I then asked her about my perceptions, and she said, "Write it all down, Anika, and eventually you will find out if there's anything to it." I did that, and then I started meditating, because I thought to myself, funny, apparently, whenever I'm relaxed, before I go to bed and after I wake up, in a state of deep relaxation, I get images and information. Or at night, an incredible amount happened during the night. I heard her voice calling out to me, which was really also a sign of grief for me in the beginning. Then I really also tried to get answers, to ask questions, to look, what can I do with this?
Which ones, for example?
For example, whether she was behind all these electronic phenomena. That was an event that was totally crazy. I really thought, now I'm going crazy, because something like this has never happened to me before. I was awake at night, having an inner dialogue with her, asking her, "Are you behind these signs? Is there something behind it?" I saw, and I don't actually tell many people this because it was so extraordinary, in the room, a kind of ethereal materialization of an object, an electric cable that floated directly towards me. I thought, wow, either this is really the answer I wanted to get, or I'm going completely crazy now. I really considered getting help because I thought, if I start seeing things and hearing voices now, that's a red flag for me that something is absolutely wrong. That's when my husband said, "You're not imagining it, just trust it. That will be Luna, who is simply still there and wants to tell you, don't be sad, I'm still here."
So, you know, this is, it's just sad, right? And she's asking the question, you know, is that you, Luna? One misunderstanding, sorry, one misunderstanding is that, or a narrative that is perpetuated like crazy, is that who individuals deal with when it comes to paranormal, or let's just stick with after death communication, right? And how it relates to the astral realms. There's this common narrative that is pushed that, you know, you can't be lied to by spirits. You can't be lied to in the astral realm because you are reading and knowing everything that's going on. That is completely untrue. It's not. It's a big, big lie that's pushed, especially in the New Age communities. These experiences are so powerful, and anyone who has them is likely going to come back from it and be affected in a massive, massive way, in a way that is only going to further their illusion of the matrix, right? It's going to give them confirmation bias, right? Just because you may be getting answers from a spirit that's saying, you know, she didn't really say it, but for instance, a spirit saying, "Oh yeah, that's me," you know, or you say you go out of body and you start having telepathic communication with an entity. They do not have to tell you the truth. They don't. And there could be certain types of realms, and this is my opinion, I think there are certain types of realms set up where it makes you think or feel that what you are dealing with is an honest entity, but when in fact you're not. I mean, it could be an honest entity, it could be a deceptive entity, but that doesn't mean that they have to tell you the truth. And so that's one of the biggest narratives out there that does a disservice to anyone trying to learn this material. Because if you have in the back of your head already assuming that you can't be deceived because everything's telepathic and you can read this one, you can read that one, and blah, blah, blah. No, that's just not the case. So who she's dealing with, you know, this is where it gets difficult. And I don't want to come off as a jerk because, again, I have great compassion and empathy for Anika and her family. But I am not convinced at all that who any individual deals with on an entity level is, in fact, who they say they are. I'm just not convinced. I lean more towards it being an AI construct, okay? Remember, every single second of every single minute of every single month of every single year from birth to death is recorded, okay? We know that the system uses that information in something like the life review, right? It has access to all this information. So what it can do is mold an experience, customize the experience, just like it customizes the life review, to the experiencer in some other type of experiencer experience. And then, well, you know, if you have that type of power and ability to give that amazingly fulfilled experience and blow the mind of whoever's going through it, you can see how that can be a tool of deception. All right. Now, I'm not saying either or with who she's dealing with, but we really have to come to grips with that. just because there's a bunch of New Agers saying that, these entities can't deceive you when you're outside the body, that just has to be thrown out to the side and say, hey, that it's just not true. It's not true.
Trust it. That will be Luna, who is simply still there and wants to tell you, don't be sad, I'm still here.
Where did he get this confidence?
I don't know, but I think he was already very fascinated by these external signs, by these after-death contacts. He also had a very intense after-death contact. Her grave is in our garden because my husband wanted to have her very close to us. He sat down at Luna's grave in the evening, talked to her, and then really had a massive impression that someone was standing behind him. He was firmly convinced that I was behind him. He looked around and turned around and realized, no, there's no one there. Later he came to me and asked, were you in the garden? Did you visit me? It was really clear to him there was someone there, and he didn't imagine it. When my sensible husband says something like that, I believe him completely.
Which of you two had the idea to go to the medium?
When I proposed my idea to him, I was very skeptical about how he would react. I went to him in the kitchen and said, I have to tell you something. He immediately said, you must have an appointment with a medium. I don't know how he knew that. We never talked about it.
How did you come across the medium? Was this woman recommended to you?
I researched on the internet and thought to myself, there are certainly many charlatans, and I have never had contact with this world. I just followed my gut feeling and, of course, the reviews. I wanted to find someone who seemed trustworthy. That really worked out great. We had an appointment a few months later. I am very, very grateful to the woman. I am still in contact with her today. We exchange ideas on a regular basis. I am firmly convinced that it was meant to be and had to come.
Was there any particular statement that alleviated?
Okay, so something to keep in mind here is that, okay, so she goes to the psychic, all right? Now, she happens to find one who's legitimate and is going to help her. And that's, again, it's good to help her heal, obviously, right? But it begs the question, how she picked out the right one. She picked out the good one, and the one that would help her help her progress to where she ends up as we move along in the experience. But to me, in my opinion, it's a setup. It's a setup job and is all about containing her spirited essence and keeping the illusion running. And look, I am not at all talking down about her or her experience, nothing, because she's been through hell. But this is the extent that this system goes, and everyone needs to be aware of that. This is how deep it goes. The level of manipulation and deception to keep the illusion going, spirited essence being by spirited essence being, doesn't stop. It just goes on, and however it can, wiggle its way in and keep you believing in it, it will do it. And a life script is a big part of this. The control factors just while here through, everything from education to government, all that stuff, religion, it's all there for a purpose. And that's to keep you inside the train of thought that, yay, this is normal. It's all right. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is why I'm here. This is all the continued reassurance. And something I like to bring up too is the continuity of familiarity between both realms. And that is what? A hierarchical structure, or the belief in it. And that in and of itself is huge at being able to continue to get individuals to buy into what the Matrix is selling. There's no lengths that it won't go. And in this case, it's with a grieving mother who lost their child.
That really worked out great.
And the psychic is acting as the go-between early on.
That really worked out great. We had an appointment a few months later. I am very, very grateful to the woman. I am still in contact with her today. We exchange ideas on a regular basis. I am firmly convinced that it was meant to be and had to come.
Was there any particular statement that alleviated your skepticism, where you said, "Now I'm convinced"?
Basically, she was able to describe relatively well what Luna died of. By then, we knew that she must have had an inflammation of the heart muscle. She knew immediately that something was wrong with the heart, that there was an inflammation. She could describe exactly that she died at home at night. My book, Im Himmel gibt es Erdbeeren, There Are Strawberries in Heaven, in which I wrote about my daughter's death, had not yet been published at that time, so from the book she could not know that. She told me about my grandma, what our relationship was like, and what kind of person Luna was, what she loved so much, and that her urn is at our house, which is already something special in our village. Those were really clear signs to me that there must be something to it. She could not have made these things up or researched them. Only the closest family circle knew that at the time. That was very specific information.
How did the contacts with your daughter develop then?
My conclusion was, when I am really deeply physically relaxed, these phenomena, these contacts obviously increase. So I started meditating, because that's also a way to relax really well. Since I was totally busy during the day with the other children, with the household, and also with the morning, I started to meditate at night, because then I enjoyed the silence and the stillness.
Yeah, meditation is definitely the gateway to having experiences. No doubt about it. It's a massive tool for us to be able to utilize. And I find it interesting, you know, she ends up eventually going to meditate at night. That's highly, highly recommended. I usually meditate in the morning for about 20 minutes, but sometimes I'll do it at night as well, especially if I'm trying to have some sort of experience or just clear my head and just get centered as possible, right? And what it does is, especially if you're kind of already tired or not fully tired, but getting a little tired, meditate at night before you're about to go to bed, and you may have a lucid dreamer be able to astral project. Obviously, it's not going to happen every time, but the implementing a meditation practice is, in my opinion, one of the greatest tools for spiritual progression. And so yeah, anyways, we'll move along.
I noticed that with time, a kind of communication flow really developed. It was possible for me to ask questions and get answers that I often didn't understand right away. Sometimes I got answers to questions that I had asked days later. That was very interesting. But it was really like a quest or a kind of puzzle, a whole world of its own.
So it was like a quest, like a puzzle on its own. And see, why is it this difficult? It shouldn't be this difficult. You know, like the inner knowing of our essence and who and what we are should just be natural. And the reason why it's not is because of the purposeful design flawed human body, the meat suit. It is designed in such a way to filter and act as a governor for us to discover who and what we are. And that is just another red flag on top of an endless mountain of red flags. The human body is designed in a certain way on purpose, my friends. It is like this for a reason, and the reason is to keep us in the dark about who and what we are, and keep us hooked to this sensory experience, hooked to the attachments and the emotion. And yeah, I mean, it's so vast how this all works, but at the same time, it's so simple to see once you kind of break through the programming and allow yourself to just kind of have an open mind as to why things are the way they are. Well, there's no mistake. Things are the way they are because this is the way the realm is designed. It's functioning exactly as it's supposed to for maximum manipulation and deception so that you don't discover who and what you are.
Get answers that I often didn't understand right away. Sometimes I got answers to questions that I had asked days later. That was very interesting. But it was really like a quest or a kind of puzzle, a whole world of its own, another language to learn.
Could you give an example?
I have to think for a moment now. In the beginning, she mainly showed me that she was with us. For example, she showed me scenes of my parents. My parents were harvesting in the garden today. I think it was peas, so very simple things. Or my mother was baking a cake today, which also doesn't happen that often. I would always make sure and ask, were you in the garden today? Or what did you do today? Is that true? Or am I imagining it? In most cases, it was true, even with the other children, especially concerning my son Julian. Luna conveyed a lot to me when she had been with him, what he had been doing. I had that confirmed to me. Is that really what happened? Were these events then also really real? I tried to develop my own system to find out. What is it?
The contacts with Luna became more and more important for you. How did that affect your life?
Of course, the contacts have become totally important. I thought, wow, Luna is still there. I have no idea how she is there, in what way, but she must still be there. I also had no idea where exactly she is now, whether it's a heaven or an afterlife or whatever. My thirst for knowledge was totally stimulated. I wanted to know more.
So see, even she doesn't know where her daughter is. Isn't that alone a red flag too, my friends? She's putting all this time, all this effort in, understandably so. There's, we all get that, right? But the answers are never going to be fully provided. They won't. Look, this realm gives us truth in plain sight constantly. The astral realm gives truth in plain sight constantly, but it's leveled with deception. So that, yes, there is some reason out there for why we get told so much truth. But there's also the reason why those truths are peppered in with mass deception. And that's just to keep us confused. Oh, you got a question for something? Well, you're going to get a boatload of answers, and maybe half of the boatload will give you truth, but in that half there'll also be deception, and then the other half is just complete BS, right? All different types of things, so that you're constantly confused, constantly asking questions, or even worse, getting to the point where you accept certain things that this matrix provides. Some sort of illusion, some sort of BS answer that you're content with, when in fact you really should have been searching and continuing to search the entire time, and be unrelenting about it. I mean, this is how deep it goes. It's sad. It really is.
Stimulated. I wanted to know more. I had 100,000 questions. I thought, hey, cool, she's still here. We can still keep in touch. I don't have to say goodbye. That was really the worst part. I didn't want to say goodbye. I wanted to keep this relationship going. And if there's a possibility to keep in touch, I wanted to maintain and develop that contact. But I have to say that I neglected my normal life a lot because this issue became so important. I realized that everyday life no longer had any appeal for me. I also didn't see any meaning in life anymore, apart from being there for my other children. But I was still so deep in grief and needed to know, is she really there? Because doubts remained. Despite all this evidence and reassurance, I said to myself, what if it is just imagination after all? Wishful thinking. Because I am such a little skeptic. If I had known she was there, it wouldn't have been enough for me either, because I thought, I want to hug her. I want to talk to her. I want to see where she is. Please, I want to see that she's okay. I don't want to just get images, single signals or impulses. I want to know how she's doing now, what's next. And I just kind of want to see her again, skin and hair.
Then, one night, you had a
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, we've been going for quite a while. I do need to take a break. If you don't mind, before we go on, we're going to break. Sorry, the dogs need my attention. If you're finding some value in tonight's stream, please consider hitting the like button. It would be greatly appreciated. And maybe sharing it on your social media or Discord, because it does help get the word out more about the channel. And so what we'll do, before we go to break, I did want to address a couple things. One was on Odyssey from, I believe, Musicality Reality. Nice name, by the way. And hello to Mike and Musicality and Rolling Water over there. I hope you're doing well. So he asked, has anyone heard of the SoulNet theory? I wonder if it's possible to escape via a hole in the grid. Also, did anyone have any negative experiences from box breathing other than myself? Like being back in a box with trouble remembering the beyond once again. Okay, so the SoulNet theory is something I've discussed a lot on the channel. It's randomly, right? There's no dedicated video to it, but as far as the whole Wes Penray thing goes, there's a lot of garbage information. I'm just going to say it, all right? Now, I think if we go into our afterlife or after Matrix existence, right? And think that we need to go between the holes in the grid or go up to 5D or whatever, those types of situations. Or even another one I have a problem with is those who say, oh, well, I just got to go home. All right. I use my intention to go home. So first thing, as far as the holes in the grid go, or just turning around and saying, oh, I want to go home. All right. The reason why I have a big problem with those is, first off, what is the grid aspect to all this doing? It's further confirming the Matrix. It's interacting with the view that the only way you can escape is by going through some holes in a grid, when all you need is your intention. That's it, my friends. Your intention is key. Be unrelenting. Know that you are a powerful creator being. So instead of interacting with these illusions, because what's going to happen? Remember, the Matrix will customize an experience for everybody. And in my opinion, you should say no customization. I want nothing to do. No customization. Nothing is allowed. Plain and simple. My intention is unrelenting to first have, non-interference, which is shielding, sovereignty, liberation, and then creating my own realm. Applying your intention for all those things and your own realm, which is outside the matrix, outside the whole thing. It's your own sovereign area where nothing can infiltrate or bother you, good or bad or indifferent. The point is it's an area you're setting up for you so that you can, for lack of a better word, have time to adjust, to be comfortable and realize your true essence, your memories, your existence, and strengths and weaknesses. Now, just because we're powerful creator beings capable of making sovereign-based decisions doesn't mean that there might not be some sort of flaws that we need to be aware of, right? I think one of those things is just the fact that we're all here, right? I mean, just taking into consideration that we ended up here, whatever the reason was, how, either it's curiosity or, and I think there's something to that, right? Being an eternal being and then also having the ability to experience something like death and not remembering, what your true essence is, that you're an eternal being. Having those things may, I'm not, obviously from a standpoint of us looking at it today, it seems insane, but think of it in terms of, hey, I'm a powerful creator being and I can go and experience this thing called death where I don't realize that I am that eternal creator being. There may be some interest for us to do something like that. Could be a bunch of different things. Who knows? But the point is don't interact with the system. Don't give it a leg up, even in the smallest way. The other one that I find pretty ridiculous is, just say that you want to go home. All right. Well, if anything, on this channel I've presented over and over and over again is that these experiencers, they think the light is home. They think it is home. They think it's God or source or creator or Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or their deceased loved ones. But the point is they always think it's home. All right. So what if after you die, you say that, and because of past memory wipes and that your more recent experiences in terms of your existence are related to the overall matrix system, that to me shows a very, very potential flaw in saying, I want to go home. And that's assuming in the first place that there is a home to even go back to. Take that into consideration too. What if there is no home to go back to? Because home kind of also weasels its way into the God, source, creator type thing. Like, I got to go back to my origin point or something. Well, you know what? The God, source, creator, assuming there is one, is absentee. All right, it's not there. So all these little things, I've seen some just really, really nasty comments from a few just being know-it-alls, claiming that their memories they didn't have their memories erased and blah 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 blah, and that all you gotta do is say go home, and that they've been home multiple times. There's a lot of stuff out there, all right? And just remember, in the comment section, you're gonna see all sorts of points of view, and everyone's welcome, right? I mean, as long as you're not a jerk and being nasty, all comments are welcome. But at the same time, just be careful, because think about how this could impact you by, oh, home. Well, home is, again, consistently appearing as the destination being the light. And I think that's really, really limited thinking. And again, what if there is no home? What if there is no home? Just do you. Just do your own thing. Don't let others come in and pretend like they're Mr. or Mrs. Know-It-All and that they have the answer. Nobody will ever fully have the answer. And those that make big claims should be the red flag should be going off up, down, left, and right. Okay? So just got to put that out there. Just take the sovereign approach, my friends. That's it. Non-interference, shielding, sovereignty, liberation, creating your own realm, using your intention, boom, 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 and just giving yourself the time, quote unquote, to familiarize yourself with you again. That's all. And I think any diversion from that is just kind of silly, because the only thing being presented in that way of thinking is risk. And kind of, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm saying everything that I talk about here is about minimizing risk, about just doing what you need to do for you and see what the hell happens, right? That's it. So the diversions are endless. They really are. And, Alex Collier is one of them. Wes Penray is one of them. There's a lot of stuff out there on this topic that, in my opinion, is flat out misdirection. Now, whether that's done on purpose or not, that's a whole nother thing. But, and again, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I'm just saying, look at it from a common sense perspective. There are no saviors. There's no interacting with the Matrix or its sensory experiences or wannabe gurus or archetypes. None of this stuff, because the last thing we want to do is interact with the Matrix, inside the Matrix, and think that we're okay when we're still stuck in it, right? It's just not, we've made it this far, right? So why take any chances? That's why, my plan is just very, very simple, to the point, and is all about getting the best result possible without any interference or thought process that leads right back into the Matrix way of thinking. We've got to dissolve the Matrix way of thinking and let it all go. Get rid of it. So, so I think that's the best I can say on those things. I think there was maybe one other thing I wanted to mention related to it, but I can't remember at the moment. But just do you, my friends. Okay. Don't let, big claimed commenters who say that they have all their memories retained. Come on. Let's get real. Okay. All right. Much love, my friends. I will see you back here in about 5.5, 6, 7 minutes tops. So thanks again, and we'll see each other very shortly. Gonna need about another probably 3 minutes, my friends. See you shortly. Thank you for your patience. See you less than a minute. See you shortly, my friends. Okay, so welcome back, my friends. Okay, so before we move along in the experiencer case today, we're just as a reminder, the next monthly members live stream is going to be July 30th, starting at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So feel free to mark your calendars if you're a member already. And of course, thank you for support. And if you're interested in joining, you can feel free to check out the pinned comment on Odyssey or YouTube. If you want a little extra content each month, your support is always appreciated but never expected. There's also a donation link too if you're interested in super chats and on both platforms. And Rumble, I think, too now. But again, never expected, always appreciated, and also have an email list. It's a good way for us to stay in touch just in case something should ever happen. And I have a backup channel for YouTube and then also a Truth in Gaming channel. And you can check that out in the description as well and under the channels tab. And right after this stream, I'll be headed on over to the gaming channel, and we're going to move on with Quantum Break Act 4. It's heating up, and a lot of truth bombs being dropped in that game, so feel free to join us. Actually, the stream will redirect you afterwards, and if you'd like to join, feel free. And so once this stream concludes, the channel will take you over to the other channel, and we'll start less than 10 minutes after the stream concludes if you want to check it out. So that'd be cool. And I also have an Odyssey and a Rumble where there is some more content there that I can't really talk about on YouTube. And there's some other breakthrough trip reports that I'm going to be covering over there as well. I also have a plan to go over another Michael Newton book. Actually, probably a few. There's a few audio books I'm going to do some cover-to-cover commentary on. Just going to try to figure out how to approach that because they're really, really long streams, but there's just so much there to learn from and further cement your inner knowing or get you to the point of seeing the deception of what we're dealing with. And let's see, I don't think there's anything else. Oh yeah, no, I think that's it. So, all right, let's move along, and thank you for watching today. If you've gained some value so far, please consider hitting the like button, maybe sharing. It does help the channel. All right, so here we go. And thanks again for your patience.
Hair just pulses. I want to know how she's doing now, what's next, and I just kind of want to see her again, skin and hair.
Then, one night, you had a very special experience, right?
Yes, I have been meditating at night as usual. I am a very restless sleeper and have several interruptions of sleep, mostly also because of the children. And I woke up. I woke up because suddenly there were loud noises and very strong vibrations. Such a vibration around me, or maybe even inside me. I didn't know exactly what it was. I had never experienced anything like that before. I just knew it's almost a little bit scary. These vibrations were getting stronger and stronger, and these sounds were so intense, as if they were next to my ears, as if a jet was flying by every second. Many inner images surfaced, but I couldn't focus on them because I was so frightened. I looked at my husband, who continued to sleep peacefully. I thought, that's funny, because I noticed that and he doesn't. And then it was all over. I thought, funny, I can't place it, but somehow it must make sense why this happened to me. And then I couldn't go back to sleep. I thought, what are they trying to tell me? Who is the sender? What was that even about? It was something I couldn't place at all. I then started researching the next day, because I always think, who knows, maybe there is someone to whom something similar has happened. And I very quickly came across this vibrational state that many people talk about just before they leave their physical body. I thought, vibrational state? What is that? What's happening there? Where does it go? What happens after that? Then I came across the subject of out-of-body experiences, which amused me at first.
Okay, so what she's talking about is very common. Some of you may have already experienced this yourself. It's when you're approaching an OBE, or astral projection, if your intention is to do that, your body vibrates like crazy. It's a very, very overwhelming and powerful experience. And then, but if you could kind of get over that initial intensity, that's what leads you to pop out of your body and go exploring. So she's kind of giving you the beginning phases of all this, which is great.
Just before they leave their physical body, I thought, vibrational state? What is that? What's happening there? Where does it go? What happens after that? Then I came across the subject of out-of-body experiences, which amused me at first because I thought to myself, out-of-body experiences? I don't really know. That's such an esoteric area. People who say they travel to the afterlife and come back, that sounded way too adventurous to me. But I was still very open-minded and thought to myself, as always, I'll do some research and try to understand this again. Take another look at it and then just form an opinion. That's exactly what I did, and tried to read everything about it. I came across a huge field of interest, where many people are studying this subject, and many are also using techniques to achieve this out-of-body state. I then learned that it is possible to visit deceased people in the afterlife in this out-of-body state. That was the point where I said, now I can't go back. Now I just have to go on because that's where I want to go. I don't just want to experience these afterlife contacts. That's fine and good and healing, but I want more. I want to see Luna doing well. It is my right as a mother. This is perhaps also selfish, to see where my child is and to ask her myself, are you well?
See, like, I don't think it's selfish. I mean, it's understandable why has this curiosity. Like she said, she's a mother. She has a right to know. And the soul group connection, and obviously so difficult to have a child lost at such a young age is just, nobody can ever relate with it unless they've been through it. But the sad thing is that it only furthers the perceived validity of this realm that we find ourselves in and the attached astral realms. So it keeps the attachments running, and that is how the Matrix is tricking us on a grand scale by wanting us to pay attention to whether it's soul groups or anything else, any other attachment.
How did you fare along the way then?
It was very bumpy. I read a lot about it. There are 100,000 techniques and a huge smorgasbord of method books. I didn't know anything about that, but it became clear to me that you have to make sure that the physical body goes to sleep and the consciousness stays awake, and you keep it awake to get into an intermediate state, into another state of consciousness. I remember as a child having many intense dreams in which I was flying. It was completely real to me as a child. I flew over houses as a child, for example, over my school. That was normal for me. At that time, I remembered that and thought, who knows if there's something to it? I then meditated regularly, also at night, with this interruption of sleep in order to follow that up again and to look. What were the conditions at that time? What was decisive that I got into this vibrational state? That was a good way to move forward because I was able to bring about this vibrational state more and more often. But that was only the beginning of many unsuccessful attempts. Nevertheless, I kept at it and tried everything to get further. And so I did. And one day, I was successful.
And in what way?
It was Christmas, the first Christmas Eve without Luna, and that was another one of those days that catapulted me back a little bit.
Okay, yeah, before she continues, I think it's important to throw out there too that, even though some of us may not remember, or maybe even you do, something as a child, we're so much more opened up. Remember, that's why early childhood development and learning about that is really important. That's a video that I put on the front page of the channel. So after you watch the trailer video, that video is the next one. But you can also search for the video, early childhood development, and I go over how we're in different brainwave states from birth to about age 6 or 7. And that leaves us an opening to be able to have recall of things like a past life, to astral project, go out of body easier. It's the imaginary state, right? The childhood imaginative state. But there's a lot of truth behind that too. So it's not all imagination, my friends. And one of those things could be something like what Anika experienced. And that's, flying outside her house, flying down the street outside of her body and having recall of that. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say in the chat if any of you recall that. I know there's a few of you in here who've had that before, but any memories that you had, feel free to also leave a comment in the comments section. I'd love to hear about any of your experiences that you may recall as a child and what they were like. If you learned anything or had deep realizations of something. And then, of course, once age 6 or 7 hits, you go into the different brainwave state, and a lot of times those memories are no longer there. So some have the recall, some don't, but we're way more in tune with who we are, what we are, and how it pertains to this system at a younger age. And it begs the question, why is that? Why is it so different once you kind of reach age 7? Why do memories all of a sudden disappear of that time period? Really, it's a big question, and I think the reasoning for it is to, it's to comfort you when you first get here, kind of keep you, because it's a transition between you just came from the astral realms and, no pain or suffering or anything like that. And it's like the Matrix kind of throws a bone and says, okay, well, here you can kind of have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But then, boom, once you reach age 7, the chances start to dwindle and your memory gets less and less. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to go outside your body or anything, but it's just everything changes. So feel free to check out the early childhood development video if you get a chance. I'll also drop a link in all the platforms for you.
At it and tried everything to get further. And so I did. And one day, I was successful.
And in what way?
It was Christmas. The first Christmas Eve without Luna. And that was another one of those days that catapulted me back a little bit. I have been practicing every night, sleep interruption and meditation, and these techniques to get out of this physical body. I came closer to getting out of this body a couple of times. At least I felt like I did. That day, of course, my motivation to see her was enormous. I really wanted to see her. It was Christmas. It would have fit so well. I practiced again in the evening and failed once again. There are many exit techniques you can use. I tried them all and nothing worked. I failed again, was so frustrated and wanted to lay down again. Suddenly, I heard 2 men's voices talking very close to me. And I thought, funny, who is that? Who is talking? They were talking about my experiments and my methods, and that what I was doing wasn't so bad. Then the voices went silent. I wanted to turn aside and thought about it. Suddenly, a figure was standing next to me, in the bedroom next to my bed. I clearly identified this person as my spirit guide, because I must say that this is how I always imagined him as a young, dark-haired man. It was completely clear to me at that moment that...
Okay, so think about what you just said. That this is how she'd always imagined him to be. And what happened? The Matrix provided that illusion, It's, again, the customization of everything makes it easier to deceive if everything's customized and upon what you've learned here, what you've been indoctrinated to, and what you expect.
Identified this person as my spirit guide, because I must say that this is how I always imagined him as a young, dark-haired man. It was completely clear to me at that moment that it was him. It wasn't disconcerting at all because I was awake. He waved at me and wanted me to come with him. I said, "No, that's not possible now because my son Philip is sleeping next to me. He was only 6 months old. I can't leave now." He kept pushing until I agreed. "I'll come with you." I haven't forgotten that night to this day because it was so extraordinary. We then flew. It was indescribable. I couldn't put it into words now what it was like to fly. I had no idea where we were flying to. We flew over water, over very colorful areas. I can't describe it. Something I have never seen before. We landed on some kind of beach and he told me to keep walking. I kept walking and I knew something was waiting for me there. Something or someone. I came to a gathering of people. I was in a park of some sort. It was very idyllic and beautiful. The sun was shining. These people were talking, but I didn't know any of them. I came to a children's playground, looked around, and saw some children. Then I came to a play tower, stopped, and knew there is something now. I looked down, and there was this little children's hiding place. Then I saw those brown eyes and those blonde curls, my daughter calling out, "Mommy!" I cried so much. I couldn't hold back my tears, and I took her in my arms. We really met in a way I never thought possible. I was still with her in that place for quite a while, able to look around and inspect everything. Then the moment came to say goodbye, and a woman I didn't know came up to me. She said, "It's time to go." I said to her, "No, that's out of question for me. I have to see her again. I don't want to leave. I need to see Luna again. That's not enough." She said, "No, it's out of the question." But I am a very stubborn person. For me, it was clear, no, that's out of the question. I just have to see her again. You can't be serious. I can't just see her once. I want to know more. Then they agreed that I could come more often. I said goodbye to her and ended up back in my bed, fully awake. I couldn't sleep anymore. I had to wake up my husband and tell him about it, because it was an experience that still doesn't let me go.
What convinced you that this was more than just, as they say, a nice dream? Did it have a special reality value? When you talk about a dream, one would have to assume it was a nice experience. But a few days later, it's forgotten.
I know what you mean. Many people ask me the same thing. That was a beautiful dream. But I say it was not a dream because I was awake, I was fully conscious. In a dream, it can also be that you experience the dream with some consciousness. But this is different. You wake up differently and you go into the dream differently. A dream has many time jumps and illogical events. An out-of-body experience is very different from a dream. I was able to have this experience whilst being awake. There was no period of time before or after that I was asleep. From that, I was quite sure that this was absolutely real. An experience that is anything but a dream. Nevertheless, I wanted to know more and also to make sure what was it and how much certainty was behind it. Because I'm a bit skeptical and said to myself, that happened now, all well and good, but what was it really now? And how do I manage to experience something like that again?
Did you manage to do that several times?
Yes, until today. This is a subject that occupies me day and night, out-of-body experiences. I think this is my way. It had to develop that way. I am occupied with it day and night. I now manage to go into the afterlife every night if I want to. I have worked hard to achieve this. Because very few people know that you can not only have a one-time near-death experience that occurs suddenly during an operation or during a traumatic event, but that you can consciously leave your body and go to specific people and places.
With all that you have experienced out of body, you, as a skeptic, have you tried to verify these experiences? Is there even a possibility to verify them?
Above all, I have to say that you have to prove it to yourself. There are people who say, Anika, why don't you pick me up tonight and show me the afterlife and prove it to me? Then I always say, that's all well and good, but you can really only prove it to yourself. Only your own experience counts. I have read a lot before, also about out-of-body experiences, how that is possible and what people experience. That was beautiful and healing and also very comforting, but it wasn't enough. That's how it is for many mourners. They say, this belief in the afterlife gives a lot of hope and comfort, but believing does not mean knowing. I want to know. I don't just want to believe, because only if I know that there is a life after death, and if I can imagine what it looks like there and what you can do there, then I can go on living and focus on this life.
Okay, so I think Anika brings up a really good point. It's about getting to the point of knowing, instead of just hearing other stories, others' experiences. And don't get me wrong, there's a tremendous amount of value in all that, especially because that's how you can see the mass deception going on in all of this, right? But like if you need to prove that, you know, you are in control, you can you apply your intention to rid yourself of entity interference or interact with the illusions or entities in the matrix, whether they're real or artificial. It doesn't matter. If you can work on yourself to get out of the body and experience it for yourself, you can prove it to yourself. That's the beauty of it. So a lot of what I talk about on the channel, especially in regards to how you can just get to the point of knowing, not just, you know, believing, but having a firm inner knowing. It goes right to heightened states of meditation or out-of-body experience work, lucid dreaming work. These things are really, really, really helpful ways to get you to that point. So I really love her approach because she wants evidence, right? She wants to be able to prove it to herself. And that's everything I talk about on the channel. It's like, hey, go out, do your own research. If you can, you know, plow through all these experiencer types of cases, the different categories that are involved, see how they connect, and then also at the same time work on yourself by getting outside the body. I mean, really, the answers are there. They're all there, my friends, and you can easily get there. It just takes some time. That's all. It takes time and patience, but I promise you, if you kind of just allow yourself to do that, you'll get answers. You'll get firm answers where you know that, hey, all this is BS. This is all one big grand illusion. And all I have to do is use my intention to get the hell out of here and stop getting stuck in this endless cycle of mind wipes and death and rebirth. I mean, it's so simple. And, you know, it's crazy because like that, what is it, the phrase? It's like the simplest answer is most often the truth or whatever, something along those lines. And in this case, about the grand deception and of what we're dealing with, that's really what it is. It's awesome. It's difficult to kind of get to that point initially, and there's a lot of, you know, going through endless amounts of garbage that the Matrix is hurling at us. But in the end, once you get to the point of seeing the soul trap for what it is and seeing the deception for what it is, it really is a joke. And you see how they yield zero power, zero, none. And so that's why, doing things like thinking like, oh, I have to go between the grid or what have you, those types of things are just kind of furthering in the illusion that the Matrix wants. So really the beauty is we can all prove this stuff to ourselves and then come out the other end and feel so empowered. And that's what this channel is all about. It's about helping empower others through a sovereign mindset with liberation as the liberation, non-interference, sovereignty, all those things, creating your own realm and putting the power back in you.
Imagine what it looks like there and what you can do there. Then I can go on living and focus on this life. I have had many experiences that in retrospect turned out to be true. For example, I later became the mother of a daughter. This daughter was already introduced to me at that meeting with Luna. At that time, I could not place it. I knew that there was a girl by her side that Christmas Eve, but who it was exactly, I didn't know. I was still curious, because basically the topic was not so present that we would become parents again, especially not when you have lost a child. You are always afraid that another child will die. But then I had a lot of out-of-body experiences and met entities that told me, Anika, you're going to get pregnant with a girl next year in August. I thought, no, that can't be, because that's really not our subject. We're in the middle of mourning. But then it actually happened that way. I doubted for a very long time what this actually is and whether these are real experiences. Many people report about the spiritual world or the hereafter. And I was often confronted with staying in faith and accepting my experiences. Today I know that there is definitely a life after death, that it is beautiful, and that no one who has lost someone needs to grieve, but should simply know that life afterwards is beautiful, and that it actually only begins afterwards, that there is only a change from one level of being to another.
Looking back, can you make any sense of your daughter's death?
Absolutely. I know that it is very difficult for many parents to accept that the death of a child has meaning. From a human point of view, the death of a child never makes sense. I really want to emphasize that. But from a spiritual point of view, there are many things that develop after that. And for me, it was like that. I am actually grateful to my daughter for taking this step, because otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here today carrying this knowledge with me and being allowed to have these experiences. I had a nice, normal life before, a life that was also very unspiritual. I had nothing to do with all this and was also somehow happy. But today I know that everything had to come this way. Of course, I also had the decision and the choice, which way do I go? Many parents break up after such an event and say, I don't want to live and be happy now either. Why should I? But I decided to take a different path. This path has led me to my daughter, to many other places, and to a lot of knowledge that I can now pass on.
So one of the things is, she's right. One of the common themes we see with those who lose a child, those who have near-death experiences, or even formative experiences through something like a breakthrough trip. I'm talking, real, big breakthrough trips, right? All those things there's a very, very common theme throughout, is that it often results in something like a couple breaking up or divorce. And that's because they reach a certain point where they're completely shattered, right? And end up usually going down the spiritual path. And so they can't relate as much with the individual that they're with in their relationship. And so tip my hat to Anika, I mean, for being able to get through this. And I think, you know, some make it through it, but a lot of them don't. And so really, she's a warrior. She really is. And I think based on what we hear from her is that she's, you know, her husband is open to it, right? He's not crapping on her. Whereas in some cases, you know, you may have an experience like that and not be able to relate to who you're with at all. So think about that. If you have something like you lose a child, an NDE, or big breakthrough trip, like you have some sort of traumatic thing involved with kind of shedding your old self and bringing in the new, that's got to be so difficult, especially if you've lost a child. Then like your relationship, you can't relate with them anymore. So it's just sad how all that kind of unfolds, and like it's like trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, and depression and things like that. So really, spiritual warrior we're seeing here with Anika.
To a lot of knowledge that I can now pass on.
You've written something about that too. How did it come about?
I have written several books. Now I have written my 4th book, and I think I can write many more. My first book is called There Are Strawberries in Heaven. Actually, I never wanted to write a book about the subject. I basically like to write, but I didn't want to write such a book about the death of my child. At some point, this thought came to me, and I also very quickly had this title in my head, Im Himmel gibt es Erdbeeren. There are strawberries in heaven. At first I thought, I'll just write for myself and start writing down my after-death contacts and what it's like to lose a child. I noticed that this is a big topic, especially for the surrounding or for the relatives, and they often don't know how to deal with the affected. How could they, after all? They still have their children and don't know how it feels. In the beginning, I didn't want to publish the manuscript at all. I wrote and wrote, and within a few months, the book was finished. And then I thought, actually, it has become a really beautiful story. Because although it touches very honestly, relentlessly honestly, on all facets of grief, I also help other parents to gain hope that death is not the end. I found a publisher relatively quickly, and the book was published very quickly too.
Do you think that mediumistic contacts, or even your way of traveling the afterlife via out-of-body experiences, could also be a way of coping with grief for many other people?
Definitely, but I think you have to distinguish because it's not for everyone. Especially my husband, who to this day says he doesn't want to go to the afterlife or visit his daughter. I'm not angry with him because he says he wants her here. He is still very angry that his daughter was taken from him, and I don't blame him either. I don't think it's his place in this life to dwell on it either. Still, I think that proving that it goes on after that, especially for grieving parents, can make a massive difference in grief. Because readers who know my first book in particular know that it's very tough stuff in places. Today I sit there and say, I am no longer grieving for my daughter. I am free of sadness. On the contrary, I am very happy for her. I rejoice in this life. I am happy that I can be here and look forward to everything I can still experience. This is a process that probably would not have happened if I had not had these contacts and these out-of-body experiences. This can be a way for people to come to terms with their grief or deal with it better and get back into life, a happy life even. When I first started looking into out-of-body experiences, I read a book by William Bullman. This is a man who, during his lifetime, was very much involved with this phenomenon of out-of-body experiences. He writes in this book that he has helped grieving parents in particular to see their child again through out-of-body experiences. I thought at the time, wow, why doesn't this exist in our country? This is a way to experience firsthand that things go on after death. That's incredible. In the meantime,
Yeah, I mean, because so you can see how Anika has she's really done her homework. Ended up finding William Buellman's work, and there's others who help aid parents who have lost their child, or friends or family, to achieve after-death communication. And but she kind of went above and beyond and started doing the astral projection or OBE work through some of Buellman's publications, and he's got some great books out there. I highly recommend checking him out. I even did a commentary on one of his videos a few years back, and with parents or anyone. So if you lose a loved one, it could even be a pet, friend, family, pet. There are some ways to communicate, you know, whether it's the Matrix or not. Let's just put that aside, but say you're grieving and having trouble. Basically, I know one of the methods is after about, usually it's about 6 to 9 months after you lose a loved one, you can try these exercises with these practitioners who will help you have a communication with a deceased friend, loved one, pet. And the success rate is pretty high. It's like in the, I think, 75% range, somewhere around there. And the reason why they wait 6 to 9 months, I know obviously when you're going through grief that you would want to be able to have that experience soon. But the reason why they wait 6 to 9 months is to kind of level you out better, right? So you're not as emotionally in the tubes, right? So they kind of wait and give that buffer zone before you can go and have that experience, because the success rate's much higher. Doesn't mean you can't try it, but I know a few that do it out there. They usually won't even take a client until about at least the 6-month range. But of course, could be exceptions. But it just depends on you and your path. But a lot of these tools are available for those that grieve. But at the same time, you know, I think anyone who's kind of watching the videos on this channel should, if they want to try it, hey, go for it. You know, I think it's a cool experience to have. But at the same time, just don't go into it fully believing everything that's communicated in those experiences, because who knows who you're dealing with, and we kind of went over all that earlier, and how it pertains to everything being recorded of our lives from cradle to grave, and how everything's customized. So the same, in my opinion, applies absolutely to after-death communication.
I have started a project myself where I accompany people, especially grieving parents, to see their children once again, to enjoy an out-of-body experience at least once. which is not easy. It requires a lot of work from me and also from my counterpart. But if everything goes well and we work well together, you can experience in your own body that you are more than this physical body and that you can enter into this otherworldly plane and visit the deceased.
I mean, one of the best Buellman sayings is, "You are more than your physical body." Well, and Monroe. I love how they both just like continue to push that and say that. I love it. It's one of my favorite phrases. You are more than your physical body. You are more than your physical body. You are more than your physical body. And we are, my friends. We are. We're so much better and so much stronger and sovereign than this whole shit show makes us out to believe.
This is a way of coping with grief that has not been done before, at least not in our country, and yet it can change so much.
Then I wish you all the best for this concept, for this path. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my friends. So what I'm going to do is just see if there's anything. Just to kind of keep an eye on the chat. I saw Ma Lopez says, "Hey Mark, sent you a little something here at Odyssey to help you get in that new PC." Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It should be coming hopefully the end of next week or early the following. Really excited for it. And I'm hoping the gaming channel will have some I think you were around the other night when I was talking about that, Mava. I'm gonna probably have some 4K gaming channel content regularly, and for the Truth in Gaming channel, and I'm gonna try to also apply it to the streams here on the main channel about the Soul Trap. The only issue is a lot of the videos I put up are, I always try to get the maximum resolution, which is 1080p. So there really isn't much in terms of 4K or even above 1080p content wise. So, but if there are, excuse me, if there are, then I will certainly do those in high resolution for sure. And I want to. So thank you so much, Ma. I appreciate that. I didn't see it pop up, so I apologize for not seeing it. And JB, hope you're doing well. Good to see you, my friend. Mike D, thanks for watching over on Odyssey as well, and Musicality, and anyone else who may have stopped. Roiling Water, hope you're all doing well, and really appreciate you stopping by tonight. Everyone on YouTube checking it out. Oh, Uwu. Hopefully I'm saying it correct this time. Thank you for your very kind super chat. I appreciate you. Says all the best, everyone. Thank you, and all the best to you as well, my friend. So thank you, Perplexians. Thank you. Best wishes for everyone. Yeah, best wishes to everyone. T, great to see you, my friend. Casey Kelly. Aaron, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Or Aran. I don't know. I could be butchering that. I apologize. Thank you, Goy Goddess, and everyone hanging out candidly. Thank you so much. April, good to see you, April. Break the Spell, always good to see you, my friend. Conscious Soul, hello. I'm so sorry about your loss. You've been getting the Matrix deck thrown at you, my friend, and I'm so sorry. You've been in my thoughts and my meditations. And in Organic Brain, hello. Good to see you, Jane. True Detective, hello. Great to see you, my friend. Black Unicorn, hello. Good to see you as well. Aaron Sales and John Best and everyone else who is here today. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to be closing down this stream, and then what you'll do is be rerouted to the Truth in Gaming channel. And please consider hitting the like button on this stream and maybe sharing it if you found it of value. Maybe you know someone who may get something out of it. That would be cool. And the Truth in Gaming channel, I'm trying to get that spread a little bit better, and there will be some massive overhauls and improvements on that coming by the end of next week or early the following. And I got some really incredible Truth Bomb games that are going to be played over there, so feel free to subscribe as well. I will drop that channel link for you. And it's not right now, it's only on YouTube, but I just opened up a Rumble channel, but I don't know if I could stream on it yet, but I'll drop the link in that after the stream. I don't think I have one yet, unfortunately, but yeah, there's some real wild ones that I'm gonna dish out, and there's just truth bombs galore. So feel free to check it out. I know gaming isn't for everyone, but it may be worth checking out. Today we're going to be doing Quantum Break, so this is here is the link. And like I said, everyone on YouTube will get automatically rerouted after this. And then so yeah, I'm going to end this now, and we should be starting over there in less than 10 minutes. So take care of yourselves. Don't work too hard this coming week. And thank you again for everyone, all the members and the super chats and hyper chats on Odyssey. I appreciate you all, and thank you so much. See you soon.